Hi, this is Caitlin,
And this is Gabry.
and you're listening to AvengeGirls and Friends.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about The Incredible Hulk and also Iron Man 2.
Yes, because as we explained in our last episode, we kind of had to do some cutbacks in order to make it to Avengers 4 in time.
Yes.
And also, these are like considered the least favorite movies, I think, along with Thor: Dark World of the MCU. But as you will see, Gabby and I don't necessarily agree with that statement
No,
upon rewatch.
surprisingly, I really don't.
So we'll start with the Hulk because this is
The headliner.
the headliner of tonight is the Incredible Hulk. Because we've already done an Iron Man movie and we wanted to
Yeah.
get through the six Avengers movies. Although I guess you could say that Iron Man 2 is kind of Natasha's movie.
I mean, it's
Kind
the
of.
first one we see her in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Same with Thor and Hawkeye. But anyways, so
Right.
so the Hulk. So Gabby, when you watched, this is the first time you've seen it, right?
Yeah, this was the first time I had seen it ever.
Okay.
And it was only the second time I've seen Iron Man 2. So
Okay. I
these
think
are
that's
both
yeah,
relatively
new-ish kind of.
pristine in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any other associations with them. Like no
Yeah.
nostalgia for them at all.
Yeah. Same with me and Iron Man 2. Hulk, like Iron Man 2, this is probably the second time I've seen it as well, maybe. Or it's been a very long time regardless. The Hulk I have also watched before, and I've caught the ending on TV so many times.
Oh
So
no.
so the ending was like super boring for me, and maybe that's just because it is a boring ending. I'm not sure. Like the whole starting with the
Yeah.
Abomination fight onwards, it's just not as exciting as the rest of the movie, in my
No.
opinion. Um, which is a problem since that's the climax, but whatever, we'll get to that.
Right, right.
But yeah, like rewatching the Hulk for me, it I don't quite understand why everyone hates it as much as they do. Like
Right.
it's not that bad.
I actually felt like I had problems with the opening, which we'll get to in a minute, I
That's fair.
think,
Yeah.
but other than that and the fact that I feel more of an emotional connection to Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk now, he seems to be a more fleshed out character somehow, despite not having an entire origin
Movie.
story movie. Other than that, I mean, like, I really enjoyed it, so I was not
I think,
expecting to like it.
which is fair, yeah, because like literally everyone that I talk to, like, is like, no.
Right. And you remember my disappointment on Twitter when I was like, which one are we watching? The one with Eric Bana? And you were like, no. And I was like, but why though?
Like in my memory, the Eric Bana one was better, but I think it was just because I was like into Eric Bana when this one came out, and Edward Norton wasn't hot, so I
Right.
was like, oh, I guess
Sorry.
like
Sorry,
whatever.
Edward Norton. I feel bad.
Okay, let's talk about Ruffalo and Norton though,
Okay.
because like you said, I also feel I like Mark Ruffalo obviously a lot better. I feel like he embodies Bruce Banner better or more than Edward Norton. And you mentioned earlier, like, why do we feel that, right? Like, why do we like Ruffalo
Right.
more than Norton? And I think it's because, like, even though Ruffalo doesn't have his own movie to himself, he brings enough to the character throughout all those other smaller versions of Bruce Banner.
He embodies Bruce so well in like little different bits in
Yeah,
all the other movies that it like either matches up to or like ends up being stronger than what he does in this movie.
agreed. Yeah. And I think partially it's just Ruffalo is a better actor. Maybe I'm just biased because I've always
Right.
loved Ruffalo. But and actually, when I saw this movie the first time, I don't think I even knew Fight Club was like a thing. Like,
Oh, to be that young and naive.
I know, right? So like I knew Ruffalo from 13 Going on 30, but I didn't know who the fuck
Right.
Norman was. So I think we like Ruffalo better because he does give it more character, or give Bruce Banner more character. Although I have to say, I really enjoy how like capable this Bruce Banner seems to be. Like we get to see Bruce on his own, and he's, training and trying to control his, heart rate, his
Right.
anger, I guess. And we don't like see that as much with Ruffalo Bruce Banner, just because by the time Avengers starts, he's not obviously, like, from that point onwards, he's not really in a place where he has to be by himself, taking care of himself. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. No, I think it does. And something, I don't know if this is like a stretch or anything, but he spent so much time restraining himself, that I wonder if none of his characterization came through. Like, he's so busy being repressed that there's nothing for us as an audience to, like, kind of grab onto. Like, for once in my life, I did not get into the movie until the love interests show up, which never ever happens.
Yeah.
Like, ever. Because normally romance comes into a movie, I'm like, are you kidding me?
You
like,
kind of
why?
Yeah.
But in this case, I was like, oh my God. First of all, because it was Liv Tyler. And I love her, and I forgot she was in this. Second of all, Marvel, where is she? Bring her back.
Bring her back. Like,
bring her back.
Do
it for the gays.
Do it for the gays, Marvel. We fucking love Liv Tyler. Are you kidding me?
Or the buys or the pans, like, just the please.
The queer community. We're waiting.
I want her. Anyway, and then third of all, but yeah, as a character, I really liked her.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk. We gotta talk about Betty, because, like, Betty, like you said, like, the movie almost starts with Betty Ross, like, properly. Like, that is when you get more invested. Like, she's just so great. I have a list. I wrote down a list of things. That I love about Betty in this movie specifically. And also, before I get to that list, though, I want to say that a lot of people in general, but specifically dude bros, because of course dude bros are going to be the ones to think this, but they, like, think that she's very boring and bland love interest, and same with Jane Foster from Thor, and we will get to that obviously when we watch Thor. I love Jane, and I also love Betty. I think they're not doing her justice. In fact, I like Betty more than I like Pepper. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah.
I like Jane more than I like Pepper. Maybe that's just me, or the way that they treat Pepper in the movies. But we will get to that when we talked about Iron Man 2. I have a whole spiel, Gabby. A whole thing.
I believe you.
So, but Betty Ross. So I sent Gabby my notes this time beforehand, and this is just kind of a compilation of every time when I mentioned Betty Ross and was excited about her. So she dates good people. She literally dates good people, and her fucking father, who I hate, terrible person, Ross. I hate Thunderbolt.
Oh my God, Ross.
He's like, oh, where does she get these assholes? Like,
dude. First of all, you've got Bruce Banner. Second of all, you've got Phil Dunphy over here. Come on. I screamed when he showed up. I was like, are you kidding? It's like when he shows up in National Treasure 2, I'm like, yes.
Wait, is he in National Treasure?
Yeah, in the second one. He's in the second one.
Oh my God. Guess what? I gotta rewatch. So she dates good people. That's like such a, like, low, like, thing to list, but I just love that she's just dating these, like, pure good people. Like, Bruce and Phil Dunphy. We don't know much about Phil Dunphy in this universe, but they're both good. Like, Phil immediately is like, you're, like, an asshole father, and I kind of trust Bruce in the whole, like,
yeah, because, like, he totally believes in her. He protected her. You guys attacked, and like, she's clearly gonna be safe. And I was like, yes, the Hulk. Good.
And then Betty Ross. She's big spoons the actual Hulk. She literally wakes up big spooning small Bruce Banner, and they fell asleep when he was the big Hulk. She big spoons the Hulk, Gabry. I'm losing my goddamn mind.
She's my hero.
She is my hero. And then when she and Bruce are, like, getting it on, and Bruce is like, oh, no, wait, I can't, because his heart rate goes up.
Yeah. She's like, no, it's okay. I'm like, no, it will. It was like, it'll kill you. Please don't.
He wants to fuck the Hulk.
Which is fine. I just worry about her, dying.
Yeah, I think that's, like, a fair thing to worry about. In my notes, I also wrote, and this is an agenda because I always have an agenda, but I was like, wow, no one said anything like that to the Hulk or about the Hulk until Thor came on the scene. Thor also wants to fuck the Hulk. It's fine. Are we allowed to be talking? It's our podcast. We can talk about whatever the fuck we want. What am I talking about? Mm-hmm. Anyways, more Betty Ross that I love. She's so terrifying. That one look into her eyes, sent that sleazeball taxi driver driving away at like top speed in absolute terror. Like,
because she's got the terrifying elf eyes.
She does. That's the level I aspire to be at. She just sees right through you. She cuts you down in quiet judgment. When Bruce was like, "Oh, I like ate the data and then like pooped it out," and she was like, "Oh, wow!" Like she was not impressed. She wasn't even disgusted. She was just like, "Okay, Bruce."
Yeah, you're so smart.
Quiet judgment.
Speaking of Bruce doing smart but actually really dumb things, can I just say really quick, the bottle in the beginning when he cut himself and he stopped all the production and he got whatever out, but then he didn't check the surrounding bottles. I was like, you're a genius. I refuse to believe that he wouldn't have double checked. I refuse to believe that.
Agree. The smart person or a smart person would see that there's, blood falling there. Yeah, cool. But more than one drop could fall, Mr. Bruce. Check the bottles.
Yes.
He killed Stan Lee. He's killed Stan Lee's character in the Hulk.
Yeah.
Anyways.
With the green soda, which is why the Hulk is green.
It's totally why the Hulk is green. Not because of any other MCU sciencey explanation. It's just because it fell into a green bottle, and
it's dumb, but that was literally my first reaction. I was like, "Oh, the soda's green, and so is the Hulk."
You're like, coincidence? I think not.
I was tired.
Oh my god. Bruce Banner's official canon type of person that he likes to date, given Betty, Natasha, and Thor, again, my agenda, is people who can like look fear in the eye and then say like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's Betty, and that's why I love her.
Okay, no, another thing about Betty that I wanted to say was, and this ties into the opening thing, which we didn't really discuss yet in depth, but she does appear at the very beginning in the weird montage opening, which like, why? I was not a fan of that. In fact, I wrote down in my notes, I'm like, can I have some real exposition, please? I was like, can I get it in like actual scenes? Can someone talk? Because it was a lot of really weird like images and then nothing actually happened. So like the entire origin story, origin stories are always about like how they became the hero or whatever. That all happens in like the first like 5 minutes or whatever, however long it was. And then the rest of it is kind of him learning to deal with it, which I thought was a really interesting choice. And there's really nothing you can do about that now.
I know why in theory that they did it.
Okay.
But you can finish what you're going to say first.
No, I was just going to say, in comparison to how Iron Man opens.
Oh, yes.
How the first Avenger opens.
Yes.
They open all three of them open in very different ways, but I thought that, because remember, I thought Iron Man had a very long opening too.
I think the key there between all three of those is that the opening of Iron Man and Captain America: The First Avenger, in my opinion, they introduced the characters very well, like the titular characters. So they introduced Tony very well and they introduced Steve very well. This does not introduce Bruce very well, like whatsoever. We don't really know anything about him until later on because he is so contained.
Which is why I would have preferred the opening to be the movie, like him. Like that's what I guess that's what I've come to expect from superhero movies, especially the origin story ones. I expect them to be about how they become, how they acquire their powers or whatever they are.
So,
and that didn't happen.
I have an explanation for that because I was curious about this movie in general going into it, because I know obviously we were talking about the Eric Bana version before, right? Yeah. And I watched both of them, and so I was curious about like the differences between the two and like the different choices that they made. So the reason behind that opening montage is because that they didn't want to retell the origin story again because they did it in the Eric Bana movie.
Okay.
And so that movie, they said that this movie, apparently, The Incredible Hulk, was both a reboot and a sequel. Like, they couldn't really decide which one they wanted to do. So that's why, like, the events of, like, Hulk from 2003 with Eric Bana, that didn't really happen necessarily that way because it's not in the MCU and they're kind of kicking it to the curb. But at the same time, they didn't want to bore audiences by telling that story again. Okay. So they were like, audiences should know by now. We'll just do it in like a montage or something. That sounds good, right? And then they
Okay.
But no, it wasn't good because
I got it.
like you said, some audiences I think were alienated because they hadn't seen the other Hulk origin or hadn't seen the TV show from like, the pre-2000s.
Right. And I think I mentioned this before in Pats and Bell. Like, I feel like that's one of the things that prevented me from developing an attachment to him as a character.
I agree. Yeah. When you have to develop an attachment to a character through the love interest, that's never good.
Right.
And that's why I think that's kind of why I like this movie's Bruce, is because of his interactions with Betty.
Mm-hmm.
And like when they're on the run and stuff, that whole sequence is really good. Although I do have to say, when he I like all of the stuff before he comes back to the United States. The whole Brazil sequence is interesting. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned before, I like seeing him actually train for once. I like seeing him fight because you don't really see that in the future movies. I love the moment when he after he cuts himself and has to super glues himself shut. Like, what a Bruce Banner mood. Like,
that's true.
That is the most Bruce Banner thing I've ever seen.
I thought you were gonna say when he was trying to speak in Portuguese. It was Portuguese, right? And he always like, "You won't like me when I'm hungry." And I'm like,
that is so underrated humor in this movie, because that is also
it was actually very funny.
Yeah. This movie's pretty funny, and that is an underrated,
very dry humor in it.
Yes, yeah, and maybe that's why we both liked it too a little bit, because we do like sometimes drier humor. But yeah, that line is so fucking funny, and also it's totally Bruce. You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry, and saying it with like complete confidence at first, and then he's like, "No, wait,
hold on,
that's probably wrong, but I'm gonna say it again anyways." Wait, we haven't since we were talking about Betty, we haven't talked about the Beauty and the Beast, King Kong kind of vibes.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. Because this movie is full of them.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, that's like your favorite thing.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can go right into that if you want, or I
don't know if I actually have a lot to say about it, other than the fact that I'm like a sucker for it, and that's the guaranteed way to get me to appreciate any romantic pairing, regardless of orientation or anything. Like, have one be like a sweaty, gross gremlin, and then the other one can be like a perfect ray of sunshine, and I'll be like, they belong together.
You're like, that's perfect. Oh my god.
Yeah, basically. So this was also definitely the case.
Yeah, like Betty is so put together in comparison to Bruce. And then, obviously, we're talking also, he is a mess. And we're like talking about like Beauty and the Beast as in like specifically, I assume, the scene where Bruce is the Hulk. He's transformed into the Hulk, and he saves Betty, and he takes her away, and he like yells at the thunderstorm.
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh, pretty
like,
baby."
Oh.
They fall
like, are you scared of the lightning? It's okay.
So he's just a baby. He's like, think about it. He's probably like 8 months old at this point. Like the Hulk conscious, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, okay. That's an interesting question. Does like
the baby, like by what Thor Ragnarok has said, where he's like, he's only a couple years old. He's like a child. Like that's his intelligence level in Thor Ragnarok. Then he must be a baby in this one.
Yeah, because that was something I hadn't thought about. Like his consciousness when he's the Hulk isn't the same maturity level or the same age. Like it's like he started aging in two different timelines almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So we still
That's
have
interesting.
like I don't know, like 40-year-old Bruce Banner, right? But then we have like 8-month-old baby Hulk who's like, oh, I don't know who's shooting at me.
That makes the thing with Betty really weird, though. Let me tell you.
Oh no, okay, maybe I take it back.
I just wasn't sure how that worked, but like he doesn't, I guess, understand what's going on. He only knows enough to know what he should be directed at.
He's like the opposite of like what Thor is, where like Thor is like thousands of years old, but he still acts like like an idiot, like frat brother at first until he kind of grows up. But it's like the inverse. Like the Hulk knows enough, like he knows enough that Betty's not going to hurt him. He knows enough to direct his anger at certain people who are shooting at him, but he's also only 8 months old and is kind of a baby. And he doesn't really like thunderstorms because he's a baby.
That's fair, I think. Oh, the super soldier serum.
Oh, man.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I
didn't realize that was a thing.
So I definitely, I pointed this out in our Captain America First Avenger episode, but you hadn't seen this movie at the time, so I don't think anything I said really like made sense to you.
It probably bounced right off me.
You were like, sure, Caitlin, keep going.
Right.
But yeah, so it's like Bruce, like he is the Hulk because of a really bastardized version of the super soldier serum, which is so interesting to me. So I think I forget exactly what I said because in the Captain America episode, because it was kind of like an unformed thought. Like I had just been like, oh right, like Bruce technically also has the serum in him. But I think I said something along the lines of like the serum, the perfect serum, like not them trying to recreate it like Bruce did unknowingly. The perfect serum in Steve brought out the best and the worst of him, right? AKA Steve is basically amazing. Right. And so he became this amazing person, this good person.
Right.
And working off of that, if the super soldier serum brings out the best and the worst of Bruce,
he has a lot of really unresolved anger issues.
Well, like anger, but also like anxiety and panic, I assume, and maybe like awkwardness. Like it's anything that gets his heart rate up, right? Like it's not just his anger. Like he's not angry when he's sleeping with Betty. But he sure almost did transform into the Hulk. Could be. But so I think that's interesting. And I don't know, I mean, they don't give us like the science behind it enough to comment more on it. You know what I mean? Like,
right, because I feel like I had a lot of questions about
like how it happened and why.
Yeah, because again, it was just in this 5-minute montage in the beginning. I was like, I don't understand what happened. How did this actually work?
Like, okay. And like they kind of get into it a little bit in the middle of the movie because that's when Ross is talking to Blonsky and Ross is like, I forget what he says exactly, like, oh, I didn't tell Bruce that he was working on the super serum.
Oh, right.
But he did, and he made something terrible, or it could be really good, and also he belongs to the U.S. government as far as I'm concerned. I was like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Like,
he's the worst.
Why are they like this? The exact same thing happens in Iron Man 2, almost.
Yeah.
When he's like, the Iron Man suit belongs to the U.S. government, and Tony's like, no.
I don't think so. That's like actually kind of like a reoccurring theme in all of the first, but like the origin movies. I mean, we haven't gotten to Thor yet, so we'll maybe speak more on that then. But like ownership, like does the U.S. Army own Steve? Does the U.S. government own Tony as Iron Man? Does the U.S. government own the Hulk because he was unknowingly working for them? Like, why is the government all up in their business? Like, calm the fuck down. just saying. Man.
But really, though.
I still cannot, like, I can't understand why Tony would work with him in Captain America Civil War when he knows, at that point, like, Bruce is, like, really good friends with Tony. They're like, best friends, right? Arguably.
Yeah, they're bros at that point. Like, they're doing science things.
Yeah. They're very close. I know Tony knows what happened because he read the Hulk's whole file. Like, Tony was kind of like a consultant with the Avengers. So he knows what Ross did to him, and yet he still is, like, willing to, like, trust Ross and, like, work with him in Captain America Civil War. Bitch!
Tony's priorities are super whack, and I can't pretend to understand them. And I wonder how much of it is, because the movies don't all have the same directors or the same screenwriters. True. And I wonder how much is
maybe it's just them not
continuity problems. I wonder how much is continuity problems and characterization because they're being written by different people.
I was just going to say, like, I know Star Wars has that, like, Star Wars story group or whatever. Is that what it's called? Where they keep
something
the
like
entire canon, like everything from the TV shows, the books, to the actual movies. Like, they keep all of it. It's just these people who, like, are super fans and keep it all on track. And they, for the movies,
literally, my goal is to work for them. I think I can do it.
You would be very good.
Thank you.
I think it'd be amazing.
Lucasfilm, hire me. Anyway.
Wink, wink. But they don't have one of those for Marvel, I don't think. Not, I mean, maybe they do.
As far as I know, but if they do, they're not doing a super great job.
Well, I guess in their defense at this point, like, it wasn't really the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. They were kind of slowly building towards that, so maybe we can kind of forgive them.
I don't know, but if they kept
movies.
calling, I don't know, but if they kept calling things Phase 1, that implied they knew there was going to be a Phase 2, and they should have gotten their act together.
That's true. I mean, when did they start calling it Phase 1? Was it with these movies? I don't know.
So
it might have been with Iron Man 2. I'm willing to forgive them for the Hulk and the first Iron Man because those came out both in 2008.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay.
And then
I
Iron Man 2 was
after that.
Or a couple days later, a couple years later.
I remember reading it on the back of one of the DVDs. I think it was the Iron Man 2 DVD. So
okay, that makes more sense to me. Yeah. Anyways.
But this was further down the line, though. The Ross.
Yeah.
So
that's true. So they should have been able to look back and been like, clearly. Also, speaking of Ross, there's a point near the end where it's right before like Bruce like jumps out of the the thing and he can't change and he drops and he like he's so like,
oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Involved. Yeah, and it parallels that in Ragnarok, which is so funny. Or Ragnarok parallels this rather, obviously.
Oh, right, yeah.
Where Bruce like tells Valkyrie like, you're gonna know soon enough like who I am. She's like, what the fuck? And he just jumps out and lands flat on his face. Anyways, we love cinematic parallels. That part before he jumps out of the helicopter, the Abomination is wrecking New York City or whatever, and Bruce is like, it has to be me or whatever. Maybe I can aim the Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can fight the Abomination by aiming the Hulk. And Ross is like, what if you can't control it though? And I just want to point out that I think that the Hulk has been controlled this entire time.
It's true.
It's not the Hulk that can't be controlled. It's like the transformation.
Or so whatever sets it off.
Yeah, exactly. So like Bruce has trouble controlling when or when not to transform into the Hulk. And that like is actually like an arc that follows him throughout all of the movies he's been in so far. And is in theory going to be capped off in Avengers 4, according to Mark Ruffalo.
Right.
But his the control of the Hulk has never been an issue. Like every time that he transforms, he is angry at a specific person who is attacking him or showing him danger or attacking someone he loves. Right. Like in every single movie.
And actually
that's what it is.
That does actually tie into two things. So one, we were talking earlier about it's not just anger that sets off the transformation to the Hulk. It can be panic or anxiety or something like that. The thing that I forgot to mention that I wanted to talk about was the days since last incident.
Oh yeah, which is such an interesting.
Which I liked how they did that.
Yeah,
because it seemed like the way it's set up is like you could look at transformations into the Hulk as like having a panic attack. Like it's been this many days since I last had a panic attack. Like 100%. That's what he's keeping track of.
Yeah,
it's true. It's a
nice parallel to a real life thing.
Plus, he as Bruce is not fully, conscious as himself when he's the Hulk. He has no
it is a
ability
distinct personality.
Right.
It's like that scene or the thing in The Office, that meme where it's like
it has been 0 days since our last nonsense. Do we want to talk about our Hulk's comment about the Hulk?
Wait, let me pull it up real quick. Hold on. Okay, so Gabry is going to read the comment from Brad because she is his twin. I think that's what we say. Okay, go for it.
All right. So Brad says, all I can really remember from The Incredible is the fight scene on the university when that one general guy with superpowers attacks Bruce and the Hulk kicks him and the dude ragdolled and hit a tree in a disturbing way. In essence, that was the only thing of note in this movie, and it was otherwise not very memorable. There you have
wow. It. Our friends really don't like the movies we ask them to talk about.
No.
It's fine.
We'll get to the ones they like eventually, I guess.
That's true. I guess we should be glad that we didn't get a 12-minute call from Brad about the Hulk. It's one thing to get one from Colton about Iron Man, which is an arguably a very good movie, versus the Incredible Hulk. Could you imagine Brad just like tearing this movie to pieces for 12
Yes.
minutes?
And
It would
be
actually be kind of
amazing.
glorious. Yeah, not gonna lie. Anyways, yeah, I mean
I
that is
do.
a very memorable scene.
I was gonna say, I mean, like,
It's
sure,
not as memorable
but
as
also I feel like
others.
this is gonna sound terrible, but I feel like I've seen things like that happen in movies enough that it barely even registered with me. I was like,
Yeah,
it's interesting that Brad finds this the most memorable thing, whereas I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that happened.
yeah,
And I just watched it a couple days ago. So
yeah. I think like when I always think of this movie, I always think of the part where he like tears the police car in half and then uses the halves of the police
yes,
car as boxing gloves. Like that is the most iconic scene from The Incredible Hulk. That's just,
yeah.
I mean,
And I in the university he does a similar thing. And I had interpreted that as like him using a shield. And I was like, that's interesting. So
oh yeah. I think I wrote this in my notes, like that scene at the university, I was like, huh, so this is like as close to Cap versus Hulk as we're ever really gonna get. Because
ooh,
Blonsky is like he has like a version of the serum in him that is not working as well because it's like deteriorating his body or whatever. But it is basically the super soldier serum that Steve has.
I guess so.
It's I mean, like
Yeah.
Steve would be able to keep up with the Hulk just like him for a little bit, I would assume. Okay. Anyways. So we were going to talk about Iron Man 2 now,
Yes.
right? So actually, the first thing I think that, I mean, I have written down in our combined notes here is something that you noticed, but I did not because I have not seen Captain America Winter Soldier as much as you have. And that's
Oh yeah,
about
good point.
foreshadowing Project Insight.
Yeah,
Um,
or whether or not we think it's foreshadowing Project
yeah.
Insight. So Hammer, who I hate, and we'll get into that. He's just the most annoying character, and I want to
So
punch him in the face.
bad.
He says there are threats that Tony Stark may not always be able to foresee, and the whole basis of Project Insight is that they're trying to predict potential threats, and then they were going to eliminate them all at once. And it's like,
Previously, yeah.
okay,
Yikes.
but and I was just wondering because Stern,
Yeah, Stern.
the senator is on the committee or something for Project Insight, isn't he?
Yes, I think, I
Because
mean,
he's a
you
freaking
mentioned,
filthy Hydra member.
yeah, he's a fucking Nazi. Once
Bitch.
again, I don't like these new Nazis, and you can quote me on
You
that.
can quote us on that. I hate them.
But I didn't even make that connection because again, I've seen like Winter Soldier. I know it's basically everyone's like favorite MCU movie, or at least in the fandom, but I've only seen it like maybe two, three times, and I feel like Gabry has seen it. Yeah, she's like smiling evilly at me right now. She's
I
seen
can't
it
wait.
like how many times? Should I guess like 50?
Okay, not that many.
So I didn't even make the connection that that sleazeball senator was also the same sleazeball senator from Winter
Right?
Soldier.
Yeah.
Didn't even
Yep.
click. So Gabry also realized that apparently Elon Musk is
Yes.
actually in this movie. I
Yes.
missed it.
When they get to the speedway in Monaco, he's like
Yeah.
at one of the tables. Monaco?
No shit. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Monaco.
he's like, "Hey, Elon, how are you doing?" or whatever. And
What?
I was like, "This bitch is in the
Oh
movie."
my
It was
God.
hilarious because Colton was comparing Tony to Elon Musk, and
Yeah.
now Elon Musk is actually in the movie.
That is so funny.
So
Elon
good.
Musk exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I guess so.
That's insane. I mean, not really, I guess, but that's
I
so
thought it was
funny.
hilarious.
The world's not big enough for both of their egos.
Probably not. No,
That's all we have to say about
that's
that, I
it.
guess.
That's all I got.
He's fucking in it. Also, Sue Storm, or the girl who plays Sue Storm in the very bad version of Fantastic Four, she's what's the word? Subpoenaed?
Yeah.
Yeah, she subpoenaed Tony
See, I
Stark.
didn't realize that was her. So
Yeah,
there you go.
that was her. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, obviously it was before she was Sue Storm,
Right.
but I think it's Kate Mara. Don't know how to pronounce her name.
Okay.
But I was like, huh, they could totally like write that in. I mean,
Yeah.
I doubt that they're gonna obviously, I mean, actually they can't use the same cast because Michael B. Jordan was both Johnny Storm and then Killmonger. But in theory,
In theory, technically,
yeah. In theory, Sue Storm is in the MCU. Mic drop. Just kidding. She's
kinda.
not. But I thought it was funny. Also, unrelated, but and I'm like jumping in the notes here. But Tony, for some reason, I just written down Tony is Tahani Al-Jamil, like from The Good Place.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like 100%. Like they have the same like I have this narcissistic attitude, but I am also like deep down a very good person who like will give unto others, and when confronted with mortality, I just give away all my things.
That's true. That is true.
That's actually exactly what happened in both Iron Man 2 and, I mean, spoilers for The Good Place, but season 3 of The Good Place.
Yeah, it's exactly, you're right. And speaking of, beautiful narcissists, I guess.
Of course. Yeah.
Every time there's a close up of RDJ in the Iron Man suit in the helmet, and his eyes are so big and dark, and I'm just like, all I can think of is the way Greg from Over the Garden Wall goes, "You have beautiful eyes."
Okay, no, like listen though. Tony Stark in this movie, I don't know what happened between like Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and then Iron Man 2 and all the other movies, but he is so pretty in this movie, and his figure is so nice, like in that race, like the race suit or whatever. I don't know what it's called. I was just by the end of the movie, I was so like, huh, I understand now. I would fuck Tony Stark.
Oh my God.
Like it just clicked.
Oh
and I don't know. Like I understood Pepper's whole thing, like even though they clearly, in my opinion, like I don't understand why they're together. I literally do not understand why Pepper and Tony are like a thing. But I understand why she'd want to be with him, because he's beautiful.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, I don't, because here's the thing. I respect Pepper Potts as a person, I guess.
Agreed.
And
yes.
I like Tony
I love her
as a person, I guess.
Yes.
But oh God, I could not date either one of them.
I just don't, it like them together has never made sense to me. Like they don't click at all. Like the only thing
that's why I latched on to Stoney so easily.
Me too. Yeah, Steve and Tony completely,
they have way more chemistry.
100% more chemistry, more believable chemistry than Pepper and Tony.
Know, but yeah.
I'm so sorry, Marvel, but it's true.
You did not do well on that front.
Yeah.
Or you did do well in our eyes.
I mean, Stoney's alive and well, and I mean, not really alive and well because they're not doing too well, but in theory, they have set up the Steve and Tony relationship, even if it's just that friendship, rivalry, whatever, so much better than any other relationship Tony has, in my humble opinion. And that's the tea.
Yep.
We can also talk about Natasha Romanoff in this movie, aka Natalie Rushman.
Who I love.
Yeah. A part of me loves this movie a lot because Natasha is in it, because she's actually one of my favorite MCU characters. I know a lot of people don't like ScarJo for various reasons, but I love Black Widow. I do. I think she's really great.
I think Black Widow's awesome. She's
badass, and she can take anyone down. Like, I love her. And that scene at the end, her scene, like the Black Widow scene where Happy is fighting off that one person, and then she takes out the rest of them.
And he looks up and he's so proud, and he's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
I'm like, get it together.
And the entire time he's like, "Oh, I gotta protect you. I'm here for you because, I'm not letting you go in there."
Like she already beat you up.
I know. I was like, "Oh, Happy," and then she completely just defies his expectations in the best way possible, and I love it. I love Natasha Romanoff.
I mean, again, like, say what you will about Scarlett Johansson in general, I just love watching her kick people's asses.
Oh no, I 100% agree. Like in Lucy, we've talked about Lucy.
I was gonna say that's why I love Lucy so much.
It's so thrilling. I love it.
It's great.
It is the best thing. The thing that Natasha does in like every single movie, it's that move where she like jumps up with her legs around their like neck and like twists her body around and flip them over. I want to learn how to do that so badly. I want to take someone out using that. That's so powerful. That's like that's the power move. You know what I mean?
True.
That is, and she defined that move. I've never seen it anywhere else until this movie. And then suddenly it was like all these women were doing it, which is great because I think it's really hot and I want to do it. But yeah, so talking about fight scenes, my one of my favorite fight scenes of all time in the MCU, which I mean that's like a tall order, so maybe that's not exactly true because there are a lot of really great fight scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Favorite single fight scene that's not a group fight scene, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
It's among
We'll go with
those.
that.
Yeah. But it's Rhodey versus Tony in his after his party in his like mansion or whatever.
Yeah.
In the part where he's like, hey, like DJ or whatever, and the DJ's like, yes, Mr. Stark.
Yeah.
Like complete like he pops up from where he's been hiding.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tony's like, give me a fat beat to beat my buddy's ass to. And then another one that bites the dust starts playing in the background. That's fucking classic.
It is good, yeah.
And then Tony like laughs. He's like, yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking of.
This is what I wanted.
But bum. Where do we go from there?
Where do we go from
classic.
there? Well, interesting that you should ask. The thing I wanted to talk about the fight scene is that Tony's just really bad at dealing with his emotions.
Oh God, yeah.
And coping with bad things happening.
He's like, I'm gonna die. Guess I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
Guess I'll fight my best friend. Guess I'll,
destroy things and put people's lives at risk for
make an omelet for 3 hours.
Oh my God. I thought, first of all, I thought that was just like evidence that he's just a terrible cook and trying his best. Where do you think I've been for the past 3 hours? Failing multiple times in the kitchen?
Possible.
Oh,
I was gonna make you an omelet and tell you.
He only knows how to make those green smoothies of his. That's it.
True. And I don't think he even does that. Don't the robots do that?
I think the robots do know how to do it, but I know he makes them for like the whole team in Age of Ultron, which is kind of cute.
Okay. All right.
So he must know how to concoct some kind of smoothie.
Right. But anyway, the coping mechanisms.
Yeah,
they're bad. And I don't know how much of this is from, like his upbringing,
Yes, yeah.
Because I don't think Howard was very good at coping with difficult things either.
Oh, I have some thoughts on Howard, but we'll get to that. We'll get there.
And I don't know. I just thought if he had like chosen even once to, reach out and like tell or let Rhodey help him, because Rhodey wanted to help him.
And Rhodey was the only one he trusted to tell about the poisoning in the first place. Yeah. Which says a lot. But then again, Tony, the way he deals with things is very much like he closes off and he doesn't let anyone in.
That's toxic masculinity for you.
That's true. But yeah, okay, Rhodey and Tony, we gotta talk about their friendship a little bit because they're so good. They're so casual with each other and like intimate. That's maybe the wrong word. So I don't mean it obviously in like a romantic way, but
right.
Although, okay, it can be, you can argue for a romantic way. I know Rhodey Tony is a popular and like totally understandable pairing. Like the way, this isn't this movie, but in Captain America Civil War, when, I forget, it's during the like big airport fight, but he says like don't touch my Rhodey. He calls him my Rhodey, right?
Yeah, that's
super
true.
good.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, you can read that either way. I do kind of like it as a friendship only because it's the same way that I feel about Steve and Bucky. Sorry, Steve, Bucky, people out there, but friendships mean a lot to me, and we don't see a lot of pure. I don't know how to word this correctly. Like we don't see a lot of friendships that stay friendships within fandom in movies. Does that make sense? Like we constantly see friends and want to make them romantic, especially, or like regardless actually of what gender they are.
Yeah, and
it's frustrating because as someone who puts a lot of stock in her friendships and like my friendships are like more important than a lot of things in my life personally, and so I like seeing that on screen and in media in general. And when people are constantly trying to twist that to, this is I guess more speaking to Steve and Bucky than Rhodey Tony. Actually, I'm going on a
really attacked right now.
I am sorry. I know.
It's okay.
I mean, it's not just you. It's everyone loves Steve Bucky. Almost everyone loves Steve Bucky, unless you're like a really strong Steve Tony, person in that camp. But that's just my personal reason for not viewing, them in that light, or a lot of these friendships in that light. just because it's nice to see some like people so close, and that reflects my own relationships or my own friendships and how close I am with certain people, but we're not romantic. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it totally makes sense. I think that is 100% valid. It makes perfect sense.
You just like Bucky.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can like both of the Steve centric ships. It's fine.
It's true, yeah.
But I do also appreciate the friendship dynamic as well. So like I know that nothing is ever gonna happen because Marvel's cowards. But
that's also true.
But so I can appreciate them for the really intense, deep friendship that they have as well. So yeah, I get it.
We were talking about Rhodey and Tony, and I kind of like went off on a Steve Bucky tangent. It's fine.
Yeah.
It happens, you know?
It was kind of applicable.
It's applicable in that I really love Rhodey and Tony's friendship and how close they are, while like Rhodey just doesn't take his bullshit, you know? Like he completely is like even in the opening scene, or not the opening scene, but the first scene that you see Rhodey in at that Senate hearing.
Right.
And he comes in, he's just like it's fine, like just like let me do this. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you, but like I gotta do what I gotta do, you know?
Yeah, and then he gets what he realizes he's kind of being ambushed.
Yes.
Into very specifically reading things that are not going to reflect well because they're taken completely out of context. Then he gets really defensive and he's like, hey, and
he protects Tony to the best of his ability. Tony, I think, sometimes makes it a bit hard for him to defend him, but
yes. He's not the easiest person to be friends with, I don't think.
No. Also, I can just as just a throwaway, but I love the line when Rhodey first comes in. You just see his back, so you don't really realize, unless you've been reading the news, that he's been recast, that it's actually Don Cheadle now. And then I forget what the exact line is, but it's like, you see it's not Terrence Howard and that it's actually Don Cheadle, and Don Cheadle as Rhodey goes like, yeah, it's me. Let's just move on with it.
Yeah, let's get past it.
Nice little like, okay, I see what you did there.
Yeah, that's very meta. It's pretty good though.
But anyway, sorry, going back to the birthday party scene, before that even like starts, Natasha as Natalie Rushman, like she's, helping, I think, Tony like pick out a watch or something like that. Is that right?
Because apparently men lack the ability to make basic decisions like that, I guess. I don't know.
She's there and she kind of like, she's being the Black Widow. Black Widow is known for seducing men, to get secrets and intel. So she's kind of doing that. She's, kind of leaning up against his chair. And Natasha, as Natalie Rushman, she tells Tony, after Tony asks, like, if this was the last birthday you're ever going to celebrate, what would you do? And she goes, I would do whatever I want with whoever I wanted to do it with. And it sounds very, like, obviously she in that moment is, Natalie Rushman, right? The persona. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's also a very Natasha answer. Like if Natasha actually was giving Tony Stark advice, she might say something similar, but I don't know.
I guess maybe I don't have as good of a grip on her character.
Yeah.
Then, because I wasn't sure, because I feel like I kind of thought that maybe that was the sort of thing that he would expect someone like Natalie to say, but I don't know for sure.
I definitely think the whole with whoever I wanted to do it with, that was totally Natalie Rushman, like her, Black Widow seducing persona, because, it's supposed to imply like, do whatever you want with me, Mr. Stark, ha ha ha. But maybe the first part is maybe more accurate. Like I would just do whatever I wanted to do with no consequences. I don't know. I do really like Natasha and Tony like as a BFF kind of duo. I feel like we don't see enough of them after Civil War, which is unfortunate.
Right.
I love them. I feel like they complement each other very well.
I could see that.
Yeah. Okay, so we asked Hannah, who is, again, just to reiterate from episode 1, she's technically our Spider-Man, but she's also kind of our Black Widow, like, kind of. kind of in that, like, in the '06 Avengers, she is the sixth Avenger in our group, obviously, so she fills the Black Widow role, but she's always been like,
Spider-Man.
I will always Photoshop
Yes.
her face onto Spider-Man in the group posters and
Yeah.
not onto Black Widows, if that makes sense. Of course, it doesn't make sense to you guys because you guys have never seen the photos before, but it's fine. One day
No, that's
you
a
will.
good point.
We'll post them to the Twitter, maybe. But anyway, so I asked Hannah, since this is like obviously Natasha doesn't have like a solo movie yet. She will. But I asked Natasha. I asked Hannah just what her like thoughts on Natasha were, or if she had any, memories of her. I don't know what movies Hannah has actually seen outside of the first Avengers. So
this is like a Colton situation.
It
I don't
is like a
think
Colton
it's a Marvel
situation.
movie. It could be.
Yeah. So Hannah told me, and this is quote for quote from Facebook Messenger. She said, I know her hair changes a lot, which is true. And that she's Russian, right? Hannah,
True.
she's right. She is Russian. And then she said, I know people try to force her being hetero, but I saw her in one scene, and I'm not sure what scene Hannah is referring to here. But Hannah says, I saw her in one scene. I'm deaf convinced she's a lesbian. Which, true. That's
Okay.
valid. The only man I want to see Natasha with is Clint.
I was going to say that earlier. I was like, when we were talking about relationships, I was like, I will curse Marvel for taking Natasha and Clint away from me because they gave him a secret family.
Which is dumb, and I will rant about that and how easy a fix it would have been if they did something just a little bit different, but we're not at Age of Ultron yet. We will, and I will let loose when we get there. But I'm going to hold it in for now. And I just gotta say, yes, I think she should be a lesbian, or at least bisexual, or at least dating Pepper Potts. Now, because that's a relationship that I can get behind. That is some chemistry that I could get behind. Just think about it.
I'll think about it.
Okay, cool. Mull it over.
So Howard, I think Howard and Hammer,
true.
both of whom I'm annoyed with.
That's true. Okay, so let's talk about Hammer first, because I don't like Hammer, but it's more just like he's like a fly on my shoulder, and I'm just like, ugh, and I kick him off. Like, he's nothing, Yeah. He's annoying, but he's not really a threat, which is, I think, why he's so annoying.
Oh my God, he's such a buffoon. Like, I don't know how to deal with it.
It's ridiculous. Like, he tries to like paint himself as like this rival for Tony, and he tries so
Tony
hard
doesn't even notice him.
Tony. Yeah, Tony is like, he's not even on Tony's
like,
radar.
I hate you. You suck.
It's so wild. And he, like, the part at the end where he like is giving his like Hammer Industries presentation. Oh my God, it's almost like I almost got secondhand embarrassment like watching him like come out. It's totally like he's trying to pull off the like Tony Stark vibe by like kind of dancing across the stage and like doing little twirls and whatever. I don't even know what the fuck he was doing. But the only people who can pull off the Tony Stark vibe are Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. Like, no one else can pull it off. They're one and the same. Anyways, Justin Hammer, that's his name, right? He's just a dumbass. Yeah, and not even like the good level dumbass.
No, because one of the things was the way he engages with Ivan, which I find it interesting that we haven't talked about the villain at all, but he's like a super forgettable villain for me though, so it doesn't really matter to me.
It's weird because I guess we can switch to Ivan right now. Is like, it's weird because he's almost like a good villain. Like, I like him and I'm kind of rooting for him in a little way because I understand where he's coming from. He's super smart. His whole purpose is just to make the world learn about like his dad's legacy. And like he's right.
Yeah.
Like Howard Stark is a fucking asshole and completely erased what's his name, Anton Vanko from the picture.
Yeah.
Like
he did,
Ivan knows how to make the arc reactor because his dad helped make it, and Tony has never even heard of him. He's not in like there's like 2 records of Anton Vanko. That's terrible. So I understand where he's coming from.
No, totally. I just as I guess I shouldn't say he's an underwhelming villain, but he's not one of the ones I think of when I think of villains that I appreciate, because he's not. I guess because he's not dramatic. I don't.
Yeah, he's subtle.
But the way
there.
Justin Hammer engages with him, he's so loud, he's so obnoxious. He sounds like
I hate him
constantly. He won't let him do his thing ever.
Yeah. Which I guess works to Ivan's like benefit because Justin's Hammer is so fucking dumb that Ivan was able to like get his code into the drone, like do the whole thing at the end. But yeah, that ending scene too, I think that kind of is part of the reason why Ivan is a little bit of an underwhelming villain, is that his grand thing where he appears in a suit himself, he's beaten really easily. Like Rhodey and Tony figure out what to do really easily, and then it's done. Like it almost didn't feel like it was time for the climax of the movie yet, and then there it was.
Right.
But in my opinion, enough about Ivan and Hammer. I think the real villain of the movie is Howard Stark. I mean, okay, I'm greatly exaggerating because he's not actually the villain of the movie, because he helps Tony basically figure out how to save himself.
Right.
But I hate how the movie frames, I mean, with the help of like Nick Fury, it frames Howard Stark as this like, I don't know, this dad who, you know, even though he neglected and abused Tony for like literally his entire life up until Howard's death, that one line of his is supposed to like make Tony change his mind about him, like the whole
he's like proud of him or whatever. I don't even remember what the line was,
like,
but
it's
that.
So bad. Like, you're the greatest, my greatest creation is yours. I was like, that's terrible. And I mean, not that like, I mean, Tony Stark is clearly his greatest creation. We're not gonna like fight on that because Tony Stark is great.
Also,
that's not gonna make up for years of neglect and abuse, Mr. Stark. Shut up.
Also, I don't buy it at all, but
again, like, you can't just say that to some, like, you know, in a video that Tony might not ever see. Like, who's to say he would ever see that? He certainly didn't have that, you know what I mean? It's only because Fury brought it out of the woodworks. So how was he, like, why did fucking show your kid the love and respect he deserves for his entire life instead of just like being a dick up until you are killed or whatever.
Again, Tony doesn't have great coping mechanisms or emotional control, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yep.
So you were talking about the notion of legacy and Howard Stark being the villain because he played a part in what ended up leading to the death of Anton Vanko, which is what set Ivan on his path of revenge. And so my thought was that Ivan says something to Tony about how he's been rewriting history and making people forget about all the lives that the Stark family has destroyed, including his own.
Yes.
And so I was wondering if that is what the movies are doing for the audience, because it's so easy to forget that Tony made his money off of weapons, and it's so easy to forget that, you know, and this goes for like, honestly, this can go for like all action movies probably.
Yeah.
People die and then you forget about them instantly.
That is 100% true.
Because they're fictional throwaway lives, basically, is what happens. And so are the movies rewriting Tony Stark's family history for the audience? Like, we would probably we wouldn't have known about that if Ivan's character hadn't brought it up. And so that history would be lost if he wasn't there to say it.
Preserve it and say it out loud. Yeah, this movie really is about like legacy and lack thereof. And I think that's again why I think he's a sympathetic villain, because you like understand where he's coming from. They don't even mention it very much that like Tony, besides as a plot point, that Tony did like basically sign off on all these deaths, or that, you know, those race car drivers probably didn't survive. You know, like, it happens in every single movie. Even in the Hulk, we were talking about the Hulk earlier, the scene at the university, like, there's a bunch of people that die there. There's a bunch of people that die at the last scene in New York, like just civilians. And as an action movie or superhero movie, we're just trained not to care about those people because the movie is about the legacy of the superheroes instead of the legacy of Okay, well, again, the lack thereof legacy. Who cares about the little side characters? They're just there. They're just there to give us the sense of threat
Mm-hmm.
in order to set up the other character's legacy. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I think I
And
just
I
kind of
don't know how to feel
but
about that. Because on the one hand, you know, people's lives are important. But on the
yes,
other hand, this
100%
is
so.
not the story that we are following. And so,
Yeah,
in terms of viewership, it doesn't make sense to dwell on them, but you need to consider it in context because
yeah,
otherwise it's not good.
agreed. Yeah. So we have to talk about him since like he created a new element. That is
Oh
so
yeah. That was so First
yeah.
of all,
So
impressive. Second of all, he obviously couldn't have done it without Howard.
which I hate
So,
that they hinged on that.
but also the way he
Yeah.
hit it was very impressive,
Oh my
and
God.
I will forever be impressed by that scene because I love how it plays out.
I love how he figures it out. And also there are two parts in this movie where like Tony just looks so happy, like happier than he's ever looked with anyone. And it's just by himself with his tech, which I think says a lot. Like you don't see him this happy with like Pepper or any human. Except maybe the Avengers later on. Sorry, I'm getting on a tangent, an Avengers tangent. But so there's two moments when he looks really happy. One in the very beginning, he's in his lab for the first time after like the Stark Expo. So his like public persona versus his like very private persona, and I think Jarvis is like making a joke with him, and he just like lights up. Like
Yeah,
I like his smile is so bright, and he's talking to like Jarvis and Dummy, and it's so cute. I was like, Tony's actually happy. And then the second moment was in this when he makes the like scan of the model that his dad has made, and then he kind of flips it around and he, gets rid of like the parking lots and the benches and all the
right.
unnecessary
Yeah,
things. He condenses it down to the atom and he goes like whoosh and he blows it out.
yeah.
And oh my god, the look on his face with
That's
that
so good.
blue
You're
on. Oh
right.
my god. It makes me really happy when this sounds so cheesy, but it makes me happy when Tony is happy because he's such a character that is not often happy. If
Right,
that
and we
makes
talked
sense.
about this in Iron Man, I think,
We
too.
did, yeah. And so seeing him like just joyful for once is always such a nice change of pace. So that's why I mean, it's also just a genius scene in general, like you said, like him figuring it out.
Yeah,
But man, that one moment, so good. I love Tony Stark.
I know. I know.
It took me so long to realize that I love Tony Stark.
I'm
Uh,
rediscovering my love for Tony Stark. It's pretty good.
it's good, yeah. Um, anyways, hero questions, right?
Yeah, I actually remembered this time.
We'll do this for Hulk first, or for
Okay.
Bruce. One, are they happy?
Um,
Uh,
oh,
no?
he's sad.
He's very sad. He's like a little bundle of depression and
Oh,
anxiety, I think. maybe
yep,
maybe
that
more
sounds
anxiety than depression. I think Tony kind of wins in the depression arena,
possibly.
arguably. But no, Bruce is not happy, right? No.
Yeah, if Tyler left him, I would be sad too.
Question number two, what do they sacrifice? Their entire life, he's on the run,
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
And I think that's also more like poignant is that he's sacrificing his, normal life to be on the run to protect other people.
Hmm.
Like he
His own
knows the dangerous.
stability to
Yeah,
preserve everyone else's stability.
exactly. He knows that he's dangerous. He knows what happens when, as he says, he gets hungry. But he's doing it to protect other people, which I think makes him a hero just flat out. But
Right.
well, I guess that's the third question. The third question is what makes them a hero. So that's my answer or my opinion is that it makes him a hero because the reason why he's doing all these things is to make sure other people don't get hurt because of him.
Yeah, he's self-sacrificing, but like not in an annoying way.
Yeah, in a good way.
In a good way that I can appreciate and that makes sense for the character and his story.
Okay. Tony update.
Tony update.
Where are we with Mr. Tony Stark? So, number one, are they happy? Is Tony happy? Still
Yes. Happier.
happy.
He
He's a
got to
bit
kiss
happier.
Pepper.
That's true. He got to
And
kiss
he
Pepper at
said
the
it was
end.
weird, which I understand.
So I guess he's not happy yet. slowly
Getting close.
trying to be happy. Yeah. Question number 2, what do they sacrifice? So this is hard because in this movie, Tony is sacrificing, like he's donating all of his money, his art collection that Pepper carefully curated. He makes Pepper CEO in this movie because he's dying. Like he's doing all these things because he's dying. Not to get into philosophy, but this goes back to like how I compared him to Tahani. Like if you know you're going to die, does giving up those things like because you have a deadline make you a good person, or should you just be doing that regardless?
Right.
And does that make him heroic for doing so, or is he just
I was gonna say, does
trying
that
to compensate?
Yeah, does that count as sacrifice if he believes he's not going to live long enough to feel its loss?
Exactly. I don't know. I kind of would argue that it doesn't count as sacrifice because he's not really giving much up. But then again, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still not totally sure about that, and I'm not sure if he sacrifices anything else over the course of this movie though, because before you mentioned that, because I had completely forgotten about it, and I was like, he didn't sacrifice anything in this movie.
You're like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
So
yeah, that's like literally the only thing I can think of. So I guess that kind of puts him a little farther back on our hero scale here. He's still on his way, like we said last time. And then the third question: what makes them a hero? Again, I love Tony Stark.
This is a dark chapter.
It's hard. This movie makes it hard because, again, the movie is about, like we were talking about before, it's about legacy and about, the government's right to Tony, who is currently dying. And that's like a lot of things to grapple with while also being a hero. And in the other movies, there are clear instances where Tony, like, rescues people and you can view him more as a hero. Whereas this,
obviously heroic.
Yeah. And this one, he doesn't as much. No, he doesn't.
Except for, like stopping Venko. Like
True, yeah. That's true. The most obvious thing. But Venko was only doing it because of Tony.
Yeah.
Like,
but he
was
didn't
attacking
care
Tony.
about the collateral damage.
True.
So
yeah.
That's it though. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. So again, I guess Tony is like slowly inched like maybe a centimeter up on our little hero scale, maybe, or he's at the same place. I'm not quite sure.
He'll get there someday. I believe.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I'm imagining the scale, but
we should make an actual chart and then like
we should update it every episode.
Yes.
That'd be a cute actually idea. I can get on that. So I think that's it. We've covered a lot over these 2 movies. We did 2 movies today just to make sure that we can get you guys all of the main movies before Avengers 4. You're welcome. And then the next episode on December 20th is going to be about 4, which is my movie, and I'm very excited because I love
Caitlin's movie, which I've also only seen once. This is
I've seen this one
great
a bunch of times actually because I love this movie.
Yeah, I know that makes sense. I'm just excited because I'm going to gain newfound appreciation for Thor, I think.
Yay!
So
yeah, like retrospectively learning about Thor. So next time we're hoping to get something similar to what we had Brad and Hannah do for this episode, which is a very short quote from our friend Eric, who is Hawkeye, because technically this is Hawkeye's first appearance in Thor. But if not, I'll just make up something that Eric says because we know what he's like. Because Eric is also very busy. We have very busy friends. We are very busy, but we're making this work. We care.
And we made ourselves busy by doing this. So
that's true. We love this. And that sounds a bit sarcastic, but we actually do love this.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
So thank you guys for listening. I think that's it. And we will catch you next time.
Yep. AvengeGirls out.